Welcome, everyone, to Monday Afternoon Roundtable. Good to see all of you.
Good to see y'all.
Yeah. It's another week. A lot going on in the news this week, especially with the hearings in New York City with former President Donald Trump. And what we want to do today is talk a little bit about the logistics of just putting something like that on, kind of what we do here at our companies dealing with executive security and things of that magnitude, and how it takes a lot of people and a lot of work just to get something done. But Jason, you brought it up when we were watching it on TV yesterday. We were doing some work in the conference room, and we were watching all the players. Everyone had a job to do yesterday, and it was pretty impressive to watch.
A lot of agencies working together.
A lot of them.
Federal, state, and local, all the way down to the high sheriff of, I guess it's New York County. What?
They're kind of I think they
have the bureau,
boroughs as their counties, though, but they have each one's got their own.
Manhattan, Staten Island, all different boroughs. But you're right, and but Tim, you'll remember before 9/11, hell, we never talked to the FBI. You never talked to we didn't communicate back then. We had different communications systems for each individual agency. No one, agency A wouldn't talk to agency B. You'd have to cross channel to get to people, and after 9/11, that improved.
That's what started the ball rolling. Yep. Was 9/11, and that was one of the key points, the takeaways from 9/11 after the investigation was lack of communications between the agencies.
It was true, and we were able to show that. And finally, now I think we have an interoperability kind of situation where we can talk to one another on the radios now, 800 megahertz system, at least here in North Carolina, and I think nationwide it's pretty much the same way, that everyone can talk. And after 9/11, the incident command structure was a big deal. Everyone had to go be trained on the incident command. And I'm going to fade off a little bit onto the Memphis shooting with the Memphis Police Department. Excuse me, I said Memphis. Nashville Police Department. Got them mixed up. Nashville Police Department, the fact that they did the active shooter drill to a T, and you were talking about how it was textbook, how those guys responded. That first officer, who was fairly new, and looking at him during his interview, young, was able to get two other people. They didn't have all the vest and all the other things on. They went in as soon as they got there. They approached the shooter, they engaged with the shooter, and they took him down. They were able to kill the shooter, and it was pretty much over at that point. So kudos to them. And we talked about it a little bit the other week, but I think that's just another something that law enforcement has done right. And sometimes we don't always get kudos when they deserve it. I think everyone in that department, from the chief all the way down, did what they were supposed to do. The public information officer was able to get the information out there quick to the people, and the story, pretty much told itself. The officers did what they were supposed to do.
And Jason brought it up, said the officer cams looked like a training video because it was A, B, C, D, everything worked just, the outcome was not good, but
unfortunately, 6 people died.
It could have been
a lot worse.
It could have been a lot worse.
It could have been, and I know it would have been. And I didn't know that she had shot 128 rounds, something like that. I didn't know that until I was reading it on the news. She fired a lot of rounds during that short time that she was in there, and obviously, she hit 6, 3 adults and 3 children, and then ultimately she was killed as well. But it could have, like Tim said, it could have been a whole lot worse. But that's important. Another thing that I saw in that video was the fact that everybody knew what to do, from the school employees where they had the keys right there ready to go to let those officers in. They had those partnerships built. They knew what to expect, who was going to be there, and it pretty much laid it out. Had they not trained and had they not had some kind of plan in place, there's no telling what could have happened. Just like in Texas, where the chief elected not to go in. And several more people were killed as a result of that. Columbine was the change of all the active shooter drills, because when we came on, they just didn't have active shooters like they do now, and so it kind of changed the policing and the way we approached. But before, we'd always, let's call in the SWAT, let's get all of our stuff together, let's have a plan, before we ever engage. That all changed, and those officers in Nashville, they did what they were supposed to do. Kudos to them. But partnership's key in any kind of business, and especially in our business because we share information. I know a lot of our stuff's confidential and we hold it close to the vest, but we couldn't operate unless we were able to have partners out there that we could go and call and contact and get help.
And this is a great topic because with our experience prior in law enforcement and currently as a private investigator, we still use the same
We do. Yeah.
partnerships, unified
Networking.
incident command. All these things are stuff we use now and back when we were officers.
And, like other PI investigative companies, we're all the time dealing with other companies. We share resources. We call for personnel sometimes when we need assistance. We run ideas by different PI companies, investigative companies. You got to keep that door open. And law enforcement agency, sometimes we're working on the other side from the law enforcement agency, but yet they're our partner, and we need their resources. We need their help. And if you turn them against you in any kind of way, then you've closed the door forever, and it's never going to open back up. And we have a good relationship with most, if not all, the law enforcement agencies that we work with. The other one that I want to talk about just for a minute is the court officials and the judges. Just like yesterday, when Donald Trump was brought into the courtroom there in New York, you saw New York police officers, you saw bailiffs from the sheriff's office, you saw U.S. Secret Service agents. Every kind of police officer you can imagine was there. And you've got to know those court officials, who the court officials are. And both of you, I know when you go into a courtroom, you usually know who the bailiffs are. You know who the judges are. You know who the other attorneys are. A funny little story, and it's happened to Tim too. Gone into court before, and the judge called my name out and say, "Well, hello, Major Munday," or "Hey, David Munday," right there in front of court, because we've grown up with those guys and we know them. And it's kind of funny because people look around, they don't have a clue who I am. But it's good to keep that rapport and to keep that door open all the time. The local bar association, we had Attorney Joel Harbison in here a while back on one of our episodes, that we have to work with those attorneys because they're our main clients right now a lot of times, and so we want to keep with the local association active and know who those people are within our region. Another key partner, I think, is the Department of Social Service. Sometimes we forget about them because they have such a tough job and all the things they have to do, which involves our family court, child custody cases, and things of that nature. We have to cross paths sometimes. Local businesses around town. We have a good relationship with all the businesses around here because we're right here with them. And, they don't have a clue what we do sometimes, but they know who we are, and so it works out well. I think one thing we do here that sets us apart a little bit is we get out. I mean, we have a wider spectrum than most because we were in law enforcement for so long, and that we have all of that networking capabilities and all those people that we can fall back on if we need to. I don't think we burnt too many bridges along the way, or at least we tried not to. We probably made some people mad over the years, but for the most part, we can still knock on that door if we need help.
And I'd go a little bit step further than that. We may have made some people mad, and the people that we may have made mad still interact with us on a professional because they're professional and we're professional. When you're professional, you don't hold things like that. You kind of let that water under the bridge. We have to work together, and that's professionalism on both ends, not just on our end, but on their ends as well. And to me, that is still rewarding that I can disagree with somebody or had disagreed with somebody in the past over something, and now we still can interact professionally.
And then going back to the incident command protocol, as far as responding to different calls, you and I both, and all three of us, have worked when we were in law enforcement where we had to initiate an incident command structure, whether it was a manhunt, whether it was a bank robbery, whatever you guys might have worked during that time, where you had to put people together from different agencies. And sometimes it was a cluster because you had Agency B who was better trained than Agency C, and you were trying to get all these people to do the same thing. If you have an incident command structure, everybody knows what to do. And so then they can go in and they can say, okay, this is your responsibility. You're over this area. You're over public information. You're over logistics, or whatever it may be. But the key there is planning and training. And that's where a lot of agencies sometimes miss the boat. They rely on some of the federal training that they get online, and that's all they ever have.
I'll tell you who's really good at this, and when I was in law enforcement, we learned a lot from, was the fire services and emergency management. And because they practice this principle all the time on everything they do, and we were kind of, when I say we as law enforcement, we're kind of the last party to get involved in this training. And they really helped us a lot because they were much more experienced.
And that was a key issue of 9/11. They proved that the police and fire could not communicate with each other, and they were all in the same building at the same time, but nobody could say nothing to each other. That was,
And there was, I don't know if you read the 9/11 Commission report, but there were so many issues discovered with the communications within the Twin Towers. That's where they set their command post up. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Yeah.
And damn, the building, of course, imploded. But and one other thing I used to see sometimes in early incident command was you had those lone wolves. You had these chiefs that would come in, or these officers that may come in. Oh, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna do it the way I want to do it. And you always had to deal with that. So you had to have a strong leader to make sure things got done correctly, and training was critical. And we used to go to training several times a year where we'd bring people in from all over the state just to practice to see how we, because you play like you practice.
Well, and we've all three done it. You practice this at festivals or concerts or anything that is not life-threatening at that moment. It could turn into a life-threatening event, but you practice the principles at something like that. So when you do have a something life-threatening, it just falls right into place.
Basically, what is unity of command? It gives that command, that individual, whoever's in command, that responsibility that they can bring all these people in, work together for one goal, one purpose.
And what we would do when I had experience in this, we would take an hour apiece and let a law enforcement officer be unified commander for an hour, then let EMS be it, then communications be it, then fire service. We all took turns at the command post being unified commander, and everybody got equal training, and it worked. And I'm sure y'all used that a lot.
And the post critique.
Yeah.
If you don't have that, all right, next time we're going to correct this.
Learn by your mistakes.
Or next time, let's definitely use this.
Yeah.
Did you guys use tabletop here at Duke much?
Yes.
Okay.
Weekly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's I saw more when I go out and do these assessments, these tabletop rooms where they have them set up just like their city. It's like a small model of their city, and they can go in and they got the fire people, emergency response people, police, everybody there that can go in and do their jobs, and then they can show, well, what would you do in this scenario? They may have an explosion or whatever in the city, and it worked out well.
A natural weather event.
Yeah, which is huge. Yeah. And that's probably the first one I worked, Jason, was a tornado.
Yes.
And and this was pre 9/11, and it was a mess because we couldn't communicate with anybody, and we're all trying to get our resources together, and I couldn't hear the deputy sheriff. It was 100 yards away from me, and it's sad. It really was. Again, I put a lot of emphasis on the commander, but that's where it all starts. So whoever that leader is going to be the one. Whether it's a lot of times it may be the police chief or it may be the sheriff in the certain county, but it has to. And a lot of times a sheriff will recognize, or a police chief may, that's out of my league.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring in somebody.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No,
and that's a good thing in my opinion.
And this is one of these situations where, in my opinion, smaller rural or smaller towns, smaller counties, smaller jurisdictions work better at this because they work on a regular basis with the same people over and over, and they know who's good at this and who's good at that and who would be good. All right, you've got a talent here, go do this.
Correct. Yeah.
Whereas if you're in a larger metropolitan area, you may be getting people coming to help that you've never seen before in your life.
Never worked with.
Yeah.
Right. And then watching that yesterday, just the movement from LaGuardia Airport to the courthouse, bringing President Trump from point A to point B, all the logistics that had to go in putting that together.
Just the traffic.
The vehicles.
How many officers to block roads?
Yeah.
Right.
Reroute traffic. I'd say 1,000 officers
Yeah.
or just
easily.
traffic.
Yeah.
Excuse me just a minute. I'm going to go check that we're expecting a package, so I need to go check, make sure that was.
But to talk about one of our earlier cases we had was a weather. It was,
Yeah.
and it was the tornado came through Catawba County back in the early '80s. David worked it. I worked it. We went to a command post, and once you got to command post, you more or less signed in who
Signed
you
in,
were and
yeah.
what agency.
Which
And-
what
and
case was
the
it?
tornado in the
Yeah.
early '80s? You remember went through Lincoln County,
Yeah.
Catawba County,
Right.
and you signed in, and then they gave you an assignment, and you left and never seen nobody with it, until the next day.
Somebody come relieve you.
You go to your assignment post and set up.
And that's good. Like if we went to the eastern part of the state as law enforcement to help on a hurricane, it's still going to be the same training. Or to another state. Now it's it's all mandated through that. Is it NIMS, National
Right.
Emergency
Yes.
Management?
Which is, I think, the best thing they've created.
And luckily, my last training for my PI hours that we have to have, training hours, that's what I had it on, and it was good. And I was able to get certified through that and get everything through them, and it was excellent training. But kudos to the Secret Service, all the stuff they have to go through and all the things they have to do. Sometimes they get a bad rap as well. But that's such a big agency. They do way more than just executive protection, but that's what they're known for. And they do a good job at it because they have the president, all the president's family, former presidents, just as we saw with Donald Trump. Any dignitary from another state or another country comes in, they have to provide protection for them. It's just a big job, and it takes a lot of people. And all we see is the people with the black coats and the sunglasses on. There's a whole lot of other people behind the scenes. And if you've ever worked a presidential detail, and I know you both have, it's pretty cool to watch and to see all the behind the scenes of what goes on in just moving that the president. But this is just something that a lot of private investigative companies, they probably don't even think about or don't even look at when they're thinking about their day-to-day operations. They think, okay, I got a case to do today. I need to do this, need to do that. But a lot of times it's just good to have those partners that you can rely on and go to and get information from and
Use your
help.
resources.
That's right.
The more you have, the better it'll be.
Yeah.
That's right.
And one thing something that we're working on that I want to go in a little more detail on is goals and objectives, policies and procedures that we have and that we're putting in place for us, because a lot of agencies don't have those. They don't have a guiding principle on what they're supposed to do. And we're looking maybe to expand on some things, different investigations that we may want to take on later on to make our business grow. And it's just, there's a lot of opportunities out there. But I think the more you're structured, the more you have a plan and a guideline or an outline of how you're going to do it, the better you're going to be.
Oh yeah.
It's just it's something that we're working towards.
And we've talked in the past, how every law enforcement agency has a policy and procedure manual. It'd be great if PIs agencies were mandated to do something like that.
And I think
To an extent,
yeah, and I think it's coming. I don't know if
I do
it's going
too.
to be my lifetime, but I think it's coming because of the liability that goes along with this business. And I think the more professional investigators come on board via retirement or via attrition when they leave their departments or whatever, I think you'll see more of that coming on. I would like to see some kind of accrediting body over private investigative firms. It wouldn't be nothing that has to be mandatory, but something voluntary, just like it is for law enforcement. But you'd have to have policies in place, procedures, guidelines, things of that nature. And I think we're working on stuff like that, and we both talked about it and what it would bring to the industry. I think the industry is right now, it's kind of growing and it's expanding, but we still got a lot of room to work and to grow. There's a lot of areas for improvement, I think.
Oh yeah.
I think our industry in itself, just by the private investigation, sometimes people look at it and say, well, you're just a gumshoe, you're just you're
Following husbands. I
following
think
husbands,
that's all we
wife.
do.
That's all they think.
That's the one probably 10th on the list.
Yeah.
And Janice introduced me the other night to someone, and they said, "Oh, you follow my ex-husband, or you've done this, or you've done that. Well, no, I haven't. But anyhow, that's part of our business, yes. But it's not the main thing that we do, and it's just one of the things, many things that we try to do in investigative business and industry. But I see it growing. I see a lot of opportunities, and hopefully, we'll grow with it.
And I would like to bring up like incident command that we've utilized in the PI business, also going off of the partnerships. We've used it at the political conventions in Charlotte. We used it on a executive protection type detail we've done before, that in case you've had, and we've used it in a lot of stuff that we where there's more than one person working at a time. You're going to have some form of loose incident command
Right.
working, and the more people you have, the more you're going to have to follow that structure.
And it just makes people accountable for what their positions call for, what they're supposed to do once they're there. And we've all seen it where you go to assignments and it's kind of loose. Nobody knows what the other one's doing, and it's just hodgepodge. The more you can have it structured, just like when you're talking about with Tim, you had a plan. Everybody had a assignment, what they were supposed to do, when they were supposed to do it, and made it a lot easier.
When we worked the Golden Globes several years back, we had 2 groups, and we had the morning briefing. One met at 5:30 that morning, and the other one met at 6 because we had so many people. But it was the same briefing, and you were given your assignment, and you knew it was basically a briefing where you knew the entire responsibility of the whole assignment, and then you knew your individual. And they would you went over radio communication protocol, what to do this, what to do that, and they would come and check on you. You knew what to do for relief, things like that. You knew exactly what your assignment and area of responsibility was, which the accountability portion, plus it made it easier because you knew exactly what you were supposed to do.
And everybody did what they were assigned to do. Everything runs smooth.
Right. You get out of it what you put in it.
Yes.
And the more you can put in it on the front end, the better you're going to succeed, the better the outcome's going to be, in my opinion. So, that's what I always call SWOT analysis. People look at me like I'm crazy. You look at your strengths, your weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Any kind of situation that you may have, whether it's an investigation, a case, incident command structure, whatever. You look at all those factors and combine them and say, okay, Tim's better suited for that. Jason's better suited there. Garrett can do this. All right, let's put this together, move. And then the outcome's going to be much better. The other things you got to look at, though, is what they call PESTLE, P-E-S-T-L-E, the political factors. They're in everything we do. They're in church. They're in schools. They're in our business, everywhere around us. The economic factors, and that's huge right now. The social factors, dealing with whatever situation you may be looking at. The technology, legal, and environmental. Technology is probably the biggest, and technology and legal are hand in hand because there's so many legal issues facing what we do and what we can and can't do. And then you got the technology side of it, where we can go and what we can do. And without technology, we wouldn't be in business because we rely on our databases all the time in every case that we work to find information. So we got to be really careful to make sure we don't cross that line from an ethical standpoint, that we're not gaining information that's unethical or it's against the law or against the rules and regulations of what we stand for. And it's just a lot. And we've kind of been across the board with this episode, but it was brought on yesterday when we were watching that event and all the logistics and everything that went into that movement yesterday. I mean, just watching it was impressive. We were seeing him, the former president, in court. We saw all the people there with him and all the security, and it was just wow. How did they get all that done that quick? But they were able to do it without incident. So
it was impressive.
Him, yeah. So. What else is going on?
We got Garrett on the scene today. He's been real busy in his stretch, but he's with us today behind the cameras.
Always glad to have Garrett with us.
Yeah, makes our job a lot easier on that.
He's the brains in the group.
Trust me, in a lot of things we do here.
Can I bring up another thing on the incident command?
Sure.
I talked about how the fire services and EM and emergency management were really good. I'll tell you an important part of it. The telecommunicator side if you've got an incident commander and you've got something going a little sideways or if that incident commander stays focused on how they transmit information, it calms the situation down, or vice versa. Just their radio or communications traffic could be like, incident command to such and such, post whatever, card, whatever. If they keep that situation calm, then that calms the personnel down. If they're excited on the radio, then they get excited. It elevates. So it's very important for incident command and telecommunicators are the world's best at this, the good ones, and they can just keep that level voice or technique, and it's a calming effect.
It's a trust thing too, yeah.
It's like, I know you're on that other side of that radio and you're my lifeline and you're staying calm. I'm going to stay calm. And that's an important asset that people overlook a lot of times.
We all have that friend. We were talking about her yesterday, Dana Hicks, that was a telecommunicator for the patrol for so many years. Her voice was so, you'd be in a bad situation, stuff was going downhill quick. When you heard her voice come on the other end, you knew, one, you were going to get help, and two, that she heard you and she understood that you were in trouble because she recognized the stress level in you.
That's another thing. That's very good and important.
So, and it's just always good to have those people on board and good quality. I just worked with a communication center, a big one up north, and extremely impressed with the people they had because they had call takers and they had dispatchers and they had fire, police, different segments.
So it was a large one.
It was huge, and it was like watching a well-oiled machine. And because these calls they weren't just every other 5 minutes, they were every second. A call was coming in from different levels, high priority, mid priority, low priority. And it was hard. I don't know how they did it. I really don't. But it's a tough job. I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So kudos to them. But anyhow, what we got coming up? Anything on the horizon with?
Well, we got a new associate. Hopefully he'll pass the board in Raleigh in 2 weeks, so we'll have him on board.
Good.
And I've got one in the process.
Yeah. So you interviewed one this morning, maybe.
Yeah.
Sounded really, really
I'm excited about that.
positive about that.
And maybe that's something we can talk about later on
Yes,
down the road. A whole
definitely.
episode on that.
Don't forget, we got a new conference table.
Yeah. I've got a strain back. We're on the second floor. Probably, I think there's 12 steps that we have to go up or more. And we brought that big boy up yesterday. So
One step at a time.
And we didn't have Big G, man, with us. We had to do it on our own. 3 old people. But we got it up here. Anyhow, it's good seeing everybody. I appreciate you tuning in, and we look forward to talking next time. We got a last call coming up, and so look forward to that. Till next time. Thanks. Bye. Welcome back, everyone. Monday afternoon roundtable, last call. We just had a big lunch
At our favorite restaurant,
Yeah,
Local Roots and Provisions, Lincoln, North Carolina.
it is good. You can't beat it. The bartenders are great. Food's
Staff, all of it,
good.
chefs.
Yeah, you got a big steak.
Oh, it was good.
That was good.
And I usually don't eat that big or that heavy at lunch, but it was once in a while.
I can't afford to eat like that.
I can't either. I wasn't, but it was it's a once every now and then that I eat that.
It looked good.
It was good.
Don't know if you've seen yet or not, but Isaac, their bartender friend there, has got his podcast up and going. It's pretty good. Have you watched it?
No, what's the name?
I don't know what the name.
He's an interesting guy.
He is.
He's really
He
good.
does a lot of this mixology, different kind of drinks and stuff, and pretty cool, pretty good stuff. So today we're going to try Crown Royal Reserve, one of my favorites. Garrett, one of my favorites, yes sir. Tim brought this for us today, which he brings pretty much every day. So we're going to try this, a blended Canadian whiskey. It's the master blender selects less than 1% of the exceptionally aged whiskeys, creating a blend that is aged longer than most of the perfect balanced flavor, which brings out the flavor and depth in the whiskey. Crown Royal has always been one of my favorites. There's a lot of history with Crown Royal where they've bought different companies and kind of blended different things. My favorite was the Cast 16. Either one of you ever have that?
I never had it. I remember.
It was good. They discontinued that several years ago, but that was one of my favorite blends. They've canceled or discontinued, not canceled, the XR Red, different flavors. But this one is one of the best, and I like it. And I know you're going to like this one. It's smooth. It's as far as the smell goes, got a rich and complex with hints of apple and floral tones. We've talked about those floral tones before. Velvety, smooth, and mellow finished. Little spicy flavors, baking spices, and vanilla is one of the flavors that's gonna jump out at you. I like Tim's pour better than yours, Jay.
I know. Huh?
So we had a good episode today.
Oh yeah.
We kind of went around the bases a little bit with different things, but we talked primarily about the incident command and partnerships and networking, how important it is in law enforcement and how important it is in private investigation industry, and kind of what we do. So cheers to a good episode.
Cheers
to another
good
month.
Day.
You're not going to go wrong with Crown Royal.
Good smooth drink.
You're not going to go wrong.
80 proof.
Very smooth. Very.
Just on the rocks is the way you drink Crown Royal. Somebody asked me one time, said, "What do you mix with Crown Royal?" I said, "Ice." So it's just you just can't beat it. It's a good after dinner drink. It's a good drink at night before you go to bed. It's just good anytime. So
Good while you're on your lawnmower.
yeah, sitting by the pool.
But anyhow,
You like it?
I like it a lot. Yeah.
What'd you give it? 1 to 10. Take another drink before you give it Greg. I don't even have to drink it to grade this because I've had it so many times, but I'm giving it a solid 10, Jason.
I'll give it a 9.5.
oh, definitely 9.5.
So it's a strong grade. We like it. But anyhow, anything going on in either of your worlds?
I got my Raleigh trip lined up to go before the board on the 20th.
That'd be fun.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the board's kind of an oversight for us, and we have to always, oblige them when they call. I've had to go one other time, one of my associates on a little issue, and everything works out. I mean, it's just, and it's good for them for doing that. Everything's going to be all right. I don't see any issues with that. We got a couple good episodes in the making. Hopefully, we're going to
Definitely
get those in order and bring some people in. We were talking the other day about, some of the politics, what goes on in politics, what goes on, in our little community here with the political spectrum. And so I want to do an episode on that sometime and just talk about it.
What I would like to do, and we kind of discussed this yesterday, is maybe do a 4-episode thing where we can have a conservative guest, a liberal guest, and a moderate guest. And then on the 4th episode, we talk about all 3 different points of view from our perspective. It doesn't need to be controversial. It's just giving everyone
Right.
each side. That way, if it's good to talk to people who have differences of opinion, no matter what your opinion is, and it helps all sides, in my opinion.
And from the 3 of us, we have different perspectives on politics for the most part. We kind of grew up in politics, or for sure, when Tim and I were young, growing up in the political arena and what it was all about, and you as well. And then we kind of all been we touched a little bit on it in our personal lives, but it's just
we've all seen the good and the bad of politics.
we have. But it's part of everything we do. It's in our churches, in our schools. It's everything we do every day. And it's just something that's on front and center right now that's got the country so divided. So I just think it'd be a good episode to talk about and kind of give our thoughts and opinions, whether people agree or disagree. I think it'd be something fun.
I think it'd be fun too. I think it would be rewarding. I think it would be enjoyable. I think the listeners and viewers would enjoy it. And you want to get people talking and discussing things.
Right. But Tim, what I think we ought to do the next time when we do the political things, do last call first. Do it first call and then talk politics.
We'll do it the entire length of it.
Yeah. That might not be a bad idea.
That's true.
And we don't want it to be a confrontational. It's not that. It's just a let's hear your side.
I think that's the biggest problem we have in politics today is you got to cross the aisle.
Mm-hmm.
You got to work. It take. We have a 3-party system in this country, and it takes all three to run it. And
Well,
if you just want a 1-party system, then this will never work.
But right now we basically got a 2-party system with a couple that are on, they're more leaning towards the Democrat side.
But it takes all.
It does. But here's where the problem started with that. I know this is not an episode, and I know we're not here to talk about this, but the Tea Party. When the Tea Party was initiated back in whatever year that was, 2009, 6, 8, somewhere around there, it kind of created a divide between the two parties, the 2-party system. And now there's nothing gets done in Congress. They're arguing over extreme left issues and extreme right issues, and you only have a few people that are really trying to work together, and their voices are unheard. And you hear the Marjorie Taylor Greens, you hear the people on the other side really, talking their issues, and whether it's abortion, whether it's gun rights, whatever it may be, and it's just taking front and center, and nothing's getting done. I don't know of any. I think there's been a lot of good bills passed in the last 6 months actually, but just with our state legislature, very little gets done there. And finally, they did kind of start working together in the last 2 months, and was able to get some things passed. But still, it's just there's a lot of work to do. But I think the voters have got to recognize what they need to do and get the right people in office.
I have friends that are, and they would self-classify. Some friends are extreme conservative, and some are extreme liberal, and some are down the middle moderate. And when I discuss politics with them, they all of them have strong points of view and that are based on good, solid information. It's just the communication barrier. I think just on a smaller level, like we're talking about, just discussing politics over a drink would be a good, if a group of local people can just do this, then anybody can. And then maybe we can start having candidates come on as elections roll near, and get, we want equal representation and voices for any office.
And election season's coming up. It's right around the corner. And there's a lot of controversy over Donald Trump's arraignment the other day on his indictments as far as what's going on now. Some people are saying, that was too minor of a charge to be pursuing an individual that's running for an office of the presidency. I disagree with that.
I disagree also.
Yeah, but
no one's above the law.
No, but I think the timing could have been a little better. I think, but the justice system moves slowly, as all three of us know, and I think that's going to create some issues down the road. I don't know if it's going to hurt or help either side, but I think it's just going to make the divide even deeper. That's what I'm afraid of. And again, I didn't start this conversation to open up any kind of, but we did pop the tap one more time on this one, so we can go from there.
And there's a lot of things we need to discuss when we talk about politics, not just Democrat, Republican, but there's a lot of stuff that goes in political maneuvering. Like you said, it's in schools, it's in churches, it's in businesses, that's not Democrat, Republican. It's just political jockeying. You have some communities that are strictly Republican or strictly Democrat, and there's inner politics amongst those communities.
Right. But I think what the Republican Party's done, and they've done it efficiently, is brought the evangelical vote or the evangelical voter into the spectrum. And that created a whole new genre of voters. And now when you separate it from your religious belief to your political belief, then that's where I think we're seeing a lot of issues right now. So.
And then from a non-ideological point of view, just a strategic point of view, I think the Republican Party has done better than the Democratic Party in their long game, in their strategic planning. What I'm talking about is investing in local politics, state politics, local and state offices. They started that strategy, thinking around 20 years ago.
And the
And it's-
brainchild behind that was Steve Bannon, believe that or not.
And it's they're you're seeing the benefits of their work at that, and that's where I think they have outmaneuvered the Democratic Party in a strategic.
I think they have up until. Did you see the Wisconsin vote yesterday
for the
with
Supreme
Court
Court.
justice? A fairly liberal, moderate candidate won that election overwhelmingly, for the most part.
Yeah, it was a large.
Yeah, double percentage. But in doing that sent a message, I think.
Yeah,
Especially in Wisconsin, because it's strong. It's a swing state for the most part, but yet the Republicans have won there many times, and I think you're starting to see a little change. And I think you're right. The Republicans did see the opportunity, and they had a long range plan, but I think one issue has caused some of it to crumble together, and that's the abortion issue. And I think that's kind of changed a lot of the moderate voters and those
I think
swing
the
voters.
abortion issue brought on for the Democrats a lot of the young vote that they don't have and will never have.
I agree, but you got to get that young voter out to vote. They'll
Well,
register all day long.
The Tennessee vote last year proved that.
and to bring up to reiterate your point that you just brought up, and kind of your point as well, where the Democratic Party has done well is recently in purple states, Wisconsin, Georgia. They've overperformed in Texas. North Carolina, you can never damn tell.
No, it's
not.
truly. It's
It's
right
the
down
most
middle.
purple of the purplest of
Yeah.
all. And I think I can speak for all three of us in that we look at politics, we watch it as like a sporting event. We analyze it, we overanalyze it. So not
Well, that's because who we are.
yeah,
and
but
when-
it's
yeah.
not ideologically like who we vote for, but we examine.
Correct.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, but and Tim remembers Jim Broyhill. He just died a couple months ago. Actually, one of our congressmen from what district was that? Tim, the 10th, 5th. I can't remember what district it was back in the day. But Jim Broyhill was, of course, Broyhill Furniture mogul, and his family. But he went on to be a congressman, Republican congressman. But he was always he could work with both sides for the most part in Congress, which I always liked that about him. And that's gone. It's the statesman that we're missing right now. A statesman. We get people like the Marjorie Taylor Greens, who's so far on one side, and who's somebody else on the other side. Give me a hand. AOC, for example, but extremely smart, good, bright individual. But if they could just get their resources together and more importantly, their energy together, look what we could accomplish.
Well, look at the relationship, the Ronald Reagan Tip O'Neill relationship.
Big
Correct.
go.
You know, I mean, and they worked together to benefit. You know, Tip was very liberal and Reagan was very conservative, but they worked together on issues because they trusted each other. They knew both each had America's. They were looking out for America,
Right.
and they worked together.
And they did that.
Yeah,
And that's long gone. And I just can't see that. But I can see where the people or the voters are looking for that. And we just need someone that can come along, whether it's a presidential candidate, whether it's a congressional candidate for the Senate or the House, governors. You know, North Carolina, we have a Democratic governor, but we have a
Republican
House. Did you see where one of our Democrat congressmen is going to move over?
in Mecklenburg County.
Yeah.
I read a Facebook post about that.
Which
I didn't-
surprised me. Her mother was a strong Democrat, and our daughter's in Congress or she's in the House, I think.
What was the reason she gave?
I don't know. I don't know what's all behind it. I haven't heard all the details yet, but she's going to switch parties. I think it's the rumor. So that's going to kind of change the balance right now because it's really close. So, just like it is in the House of Representatives, in the United States, Democrats have control of the Senate. However, the House is controlled by the Republicans. And so it's just an argument all the time. Nothing can get settled. We got to have some statesmen, is what I call them. They can come in, say, let's sit down, let's talk about this, let's argue it, let's debate it, whatever needs to be done, bring in the experts, let's get it done.
Yeah.
But you don't see that anymore.
What is your opinion, both of you? And I've always heard this, and I believe it. I think it's true that most things get done at a local level. Local level politics is more
All politics is local.
Yeah,
That starts locally, and then it'll work up.
yeah.
But I think the Trump era has changed that a little bit because of the mindset, because of the controversy, always something going on behind the scenes, always a distraction. It's like a magician. Here's what's really going on, but look over here.
Don't look behind the screen.
Yeah, and it's just causing all kind of issues right now, and I think this indictment's even going to make it worse. It's right here at election time. It's going to be interesting to see, what the American people, how they respond at the ballot box. So, you run for office, I've run for office, and it's tough. It's hard. And people don't realize how much money it takes. The worst thing that ever happened was the Supreme Court ruled that private entities are people.
Citizens United case.
Citizens United, and now billions of dollars goes into PACs.
PAC money.
Super
And
PACs and
super
PACs.
PACs, and that money goes it's out of control. Whereas before,
It's not regulated.
not regulated.
And
Well,
both sides,
both sides use it.
yeah.
And the gerrymandering issues.
Gerrymandering
Both sides have done that as well,
Mm-hmm.
Jason. Both
You're
sides.
right.
And so it's just one thing and then the other, and then we're not getting anywhere. We're not getting anywhere. And other countries are looking at us and saying, "You used to be the beacon on the star on the mountain, the light at the end of the tunnel, but now it's like, damn, guys, what's going on?" So I don't know. It's a lot of work to do, and so we just hopefully that the voter will recognize what's important and get the right people in, whether they're Republican, Democrat, Independent, whatever they may be. And one thing that I think would be interesting, another topic would be a third party. Right now we have the independent party or the nonpartisan, but there's a lot of nonpartisan voters out there.
There's more than ever.
Yeah, and I'm registered as
I'm unaffiliated.
unaffiliated, excuse me, and I think that's where a large majority of the vote lies, and both parties need to recognize that. And
There's a great
after it.
advantage of being a voter and registered to a party. The problem is there's so many people now that don't feel at home in a party.
They're not
Some do,
comfortable.
some do, and there's nothing wrong with being a strong partisan. There is absolutely, because I was one before, and I've been there. There's nothing wrong with that, but there's a lot of alienation from both parties, and basically your unaffiliated voter is the one that's deciding elections.
every time.
I guess my worst pet peeve is politics in the church house.
Yeah,
I'm so against that. It's, I go to political meetings to hear politics, but I go to church for another reason, and it's not politics.
Well, and I've been in so many churches. Tim was in one recently, and the first thing they started talking was politics. And I started to get up and leave,
Yeah,
but I had more respect.
and that's just come on in the last 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, and I don't feel comfortable. That's not what I'm there for.
No.
And there's a reason there's a divide there. There's a reason that it's separated church and state, and that's why. I mean, but the evangelical voter seems to think, yeah, we want Christianity in our politics. Well, what if the individual is
Muslim.
atheist? What's Muslim? What if they're whatever religion they want to honor? It shouldn't matter. But oh no, as long as it's my religion, that's what it should be. Well, that's why there's a separation there.
Of church and state.
But people can't understand that.
I agree with that. I don't have a problem with a person voting.
They should.
Yeah,
They should
I
vote.
agree.
Vote with their heart.
Yeah, and praying, no matter
Yes.
who they pray to,
I
no
agree,
matter
100%.
what. Yeah, I don't. But the organizational part, whether it's church and state, you can't mix, and that's part of the Constitution. I mean, you just
Yes.
can't do it. It's and there's a reason behind it, and I think it gives more validity to your religion and your parties if you keep them separated.
Agree.
When you
Right.
start combining them, that it takes validity away from both sides.
Anyhow, that's a topic we're going to pick up maybe
Something we can get
yeah
into.
down the road.
And we
We'll
look
talk about
forward to everybody's opinion on this.
Yeah.
And there's what is good for you may not be good for us, or
right. And I have a lot of friends on both sides, of course.
I do too.
I would say the majority of my friends vote differently than probably I do, but yet I listen to their argument. I listen to their side. They listen to my side, and at the end of the day, we have a drink of Crown Reserve or whatever it may be, and we talk about it and we go on, and that's the way it should be. So, but unfortunately, that's not the way it is always. So, anyhow, it's been fun.
Oh yeah, I look forward to it.
I do too.
We
Last
got
call. Monday
Share and
afternoon
like.
roundtable. Share, like, share, whatever.
Share,
There you
like,
go.
comment, subscribe.
Hard to say after you.
All those things, and we appreciate all your support. Let your friends know. Turn them on to our podcast. Turn them on to our Facebook page. Turn them on to our Spotify page. And we're always open to discussion on any topic.
Yep.
Yes.
All right. Till next time. Thanks.
Thank you.